Pranakasha live stream. Hey folks, it's Matt at Pranakasha Productions, and today we have a very special guest because we happen to know each other quite well because Bobby is my conducting teacher, and so we know each other. This is Bobby Collins, who's a extremely talented conductor in the Seattle area, and musician, also plays French horn, and then you're also an educator too, like you run a string program, right?
Yeah, thank you, by the way. I teach elementary strings in the Edmond School District.
Right, okay. Yep.
Yeah.
So if any of you, hopefully some of your students might watch this interview.
Yeah, we'll see.
So I just want to say, so the way that Bobby and I met was that I play in several orchestras in town, but one of them is Lake Union Civic Orchestra, otherwise known as LUCO. And we recently got a new music director, and also we got Bobby as our assistant conductor. And surprisingly, the very first rehearsal that Nick, our new music director, Nick Keoli, hopefully I said that right.
Willie.
Okay, you say it.
Nick Keoli.
Okay, Nick Keoli.
Yeah.
Sorry, Nick. The very first rehearsal, Nick, the new music director, decided he was going to sit in a chair in the corner and let Bobby, his assistant conductor, run the entire thing. And I was sitting there as assistant concertmaster, and the first thing I thought of was, okay, this is interesting. Apparently, Nick has a lot of faith in this Bobby dude. And then Bobby came up and ran in the rehearsal, and I was super impressed. In fact, I was so impressed, I came up afterwards and said, wow, you're really good. And then and I think maybe in the same breath, I might have even said, "Would you be my teacher?"
I don't think it was quite in the same breath. Because that started in, it must have been 2019, because that's when Nick started with LUCO.
Okay.
And I don't think you asked me until the pandemic started. It all sort of mashes together, though.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, we.
Okay. Well, anyhow. I was so impressed that I asked Bobby to become my conducting teacher, and we've been going at it ever since.
Yeah.
And then recently I became a cellist in Seattle Festival Orchestra, which Bobby is the music director of. And I asked if I could be part of the cello section.
Yeah.
And so it's been a lot of fun. I'm learning.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. So that's where we're at. Also, Bobby's also a composer, and I'm a composer too. And so I'm also encouraging Bobby to write music and also giving him some pointers and what I know. But anyhow, so that's how we know each other. And so we decided we should bring you on the show and have you tell us everything that, it's going to be interesting because now I'm going to learn a bunch of things about you that I don't even know yet.
Yeah, right. Well, and what's interesting is I knew about you for a number of years before we really met.
Oh.
I played in Octava.
Octava Chamber Orchestra.
Yeah, Octava Chamber Orchestra that you were concertmaster for and kind of run and all
also
that.
The president. Yeah.
A few years before I joined with LUCO. I don't remember exactly when it was. And I remember seeing you and not feeling like there was the right time to introduce myself necessarily. I don't even remember who brought me in. It must have been Jamie or something to play horn. It was on the Bizet Symphony in C.
Oh, yeah.
And it might have been Steve, actually, because I've known Steve for many years.
Yeah, it could have Steve Knopfsinger, who at the time was our personnel manager.
Yeah.
And,
anyway, so I knew about you there. I knew you were in LUCO, but I didn't know much about you. I just knew that you were around and involved in things that I had an interest in being involved in.
Yeah, Matt's just this guy,
Yeah, well, I just it was mostly that we didn't. I think we knew plenty of people that knew both of us, but the planets didn't align until 2019 for us to actually start getting to know each other.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. So, and actually, we still, even though we live like 10 minutes away from each other, we both live in the same area. But during the pandemic, we started doing our conducting lessons over Zoom, kind of like this, or Google
Yeah.
Hangouts, I guess is what we started using. But, anyways. And then we said, hey, the pandemic's kind of going away. Let's just do it at your house. So you came over and we did one lesson at my house.
Yeah,
But
we did a few lessons, but then Omicron kicked in.
oh yeah, so
Uh,
then plus I was like, this is weird actually doing it together. I was like so used to doing it over Zoom that I said let's just do it on Zoom, keep doing it on Zoom forever.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, but
Well,
those lessons are so weird because because if somebody watched us having that lesson, they'd be like, "What the hell's going on?" Because we're both looking at a score, and either I'm conducting or you're demonstrating conducting, and there's no sound because we're both
a whole new
pretending that we're
right.
hearing the music, and we're both hearing it in our own head,
Yeah,
but somehow we're able to do it.
conducting lessons are a weird thing. And I've had a variety of them, and with different teachers and stuff. And one of the ways is what you and I are doing. Another way, when you have like a really accomplished pianist, is that they'll actually play the orchestral score on the piano, following your conducting. Nick Kawili does that in his conducting lessons. Very impressive. My piano skills are not that way. I've also done them where the conducting lesson is reviewing a video of conducting, and that can be really helpful. And we talked about possibly doing that a little bit in a couple of months.
Yeah.
We have that opportunity.
Well, occasionally we'll go and look at a YouTube video, maybe before the lesson, and kind of discuss how
Mhm.
a particular orchestra plays a piece or how a
Yeah.
conductor does it. But most
Well,
of the time, the thing that's so funny is like when we're going along, I'm conducting, and then you're like, well, you're rushing right there, or like you're dragging, or like you didn't cue the oboes, and I'm like, yeah, I know, let's do it again. And if somebody was watching, they'd be like, what in the hell is going on? Nothing's happening. There's no sound. There's
yeah.
just these two guys waving their stick, looking at a score.
Well, we should record a few of them and throw them into, like, just drop them into conversations where people are trying to figure out what the purpose of a conductor is, just to confuse the situation even more.
It would be really good is if we did one of those and we put out the video and we had people try to figure out what piece we were conducting.
That's fun. Yeah, no, it's we. I remember playing games in beginning conducting classes. There's the idea that, and there's some truth to this, that somebody should be able to watch you conduct and be able to identify what you're conducting by just watching you, no sound.
Okay, I'll do this on you.
But which is
All
a
right,
little
hold
ridiculous.
on. Actually, there's so many ways to do this one that it could, and I haven't even had a lesson on it yet, but let's see. This is crazy. Okay, what is that? Actually, I would say I'm probably doing it wrong.
Uh,
Flying guess.
my first guess would actually be Egmont Overture.
Close.
Beethoven.
Very close.
Are
It
you
was
thinking
Beethoven. It was Beethoven.
you thinking
I'll give you one
Beethoven
more.
3?
How could that be Beethoven 3?
Well, I was not. I didn't think it really could. I was like,
I was trying to do Beethoven 5th.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. No, that was. Well, it wouldn't win you any conducting competitions,
Yeah,
but
that's for
I know
sure.
what you're getting. No, Beethoven 3 was a little bit like, that would be wrong. That's anyway. Sorry, it
Anyway,
was much
whatever.
closer to Beethoven 5.
At least you get Beethoven. That was good.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So, yeah. So that's how we know each other. So my question would be, I guess, like, when was the first time that you got the idea that you wanted to become a conductor?
I think high school would be when it started.
Okay.
It took a number of uh, iterations before it became what it is today, um, and kind of settled out into more of what I really want to do. Um, in high school, I was heavily involved in the music program, doing band, orchestra, and choir, and then youth symphony on the side. My mom's a choir director,
Oh, okay.
and so she was actually going back to the UW to get a degree in music, um, while I was in junior high. So kind
Okay.
of this really formative period of musical learning, and my mom was also sharing some of her learning, and so she's going through like music history, music theory, all of the like standard music classes. Um, when I'm just beginning to really start getting serious about music. Now, I've done music all my life. I started piano when I was in kindergarten, didn't actually practice, didn't have a teacher, didn't, so made no real progress, but was exposed to music pretty heavily throughout my entire life. But that was kind of building. And then in ninth grade, I started playing in youth symphony, in Cascade Youth Symphony here in Edmonds.
Oh,
Um,
was
and
Gary Marsh conducting at that
oh
time?
yeah, Gary Marsh and Tam Osborne.
Oh, cool.
Um,
Okay.
and And so in high school, I started realizing that maybe um, I was working and thinking about what I wanted to, my last couple of years of high school, thinking, what do I want to do? I love music and everything. I loved the uh, interpersonal aspect of working at a bank because I was working as a bank teller at the time.
Oh, okay.
That back then Washington Mutual was still a thing, and it had a high school intern program. So for 2 years in high
Interesting.
school, I worked as a bank teller, um, which was a
It,
really sweet first job.
it's
Um,
funny. My very first IT job was at a bank,
oh, nice.
and several of the people who worked there eventually ended up um, moving over to WAMU.
Oh, nice. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and then unfortunately it got destroyed by
Like
Chase.
Chase, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that soon after me, that not because of me, but because of people in the program at the same time as me, uh, that program actually went by the wayside. But I was reflecting on like, what do I want to do? Like, what's a like reasonable way to make money,
Mhm.
but also fits everything that I want to do and my interests and stuff. And I finally kind of was like, I got to do something with music. And initially was really heavy on the education side of things, but wanted to be, doing kind of youth symphony stuff and doing good quality music.
Mhm.
And so I majored in music ed in college. And through that process, sort of started realizing that I wanted to maybe do more performing um, than educating. And I also, even early on, I had a much greater appreciation for an orchestral conductor, because I was singing in choir, I was playing in
Okay.
band. My mom was going through this stuff where she's working with orchestral conductors and choral conductors and things like that.
Okay.
And so I had all this exposure and I could acknowledge, I was like, I'm really interested in this conducting thing because it drives me nuts when there's a bad conductor who's not really showing anything with their hands. Um, and so I get into college and start playing in the orchestra and was just started asking a lot of questions and looking at scores and paying attention. And Nick Kawili started at Central in my sophomore year, my second year there. And so he was the main one that I was kind of going up to, going to this. So in the score, it does this, and what can you explain this to me, and stuff like that. And so after I did my basic conducting, he invited me to actually be involved in the graduate conducting seminar, which was like it wasn't so much actual like stick technique, but it was more like score study and diving into scores and understanding what's going on.
Okay.
So that was really useful. And then Jeff Snedeker, my horn teacher, actually gave me a chance to start doing some conducting with the horn choir. And so that was one of my first experiences. And then I worked
How many
as
horns was that? 8?
the piece I did was 8 horns, yeah.
Okay.
And then I started working as an assistant conductor with the Kittitas Valley Youth Orchestra, which is the youth orchestra that's run by the Central Washington. Did that for a couple of years, and ended up conducting a piece, like a concerto on a couple pieces for a couple of friends in the last few years that I was there.
Okay.
So I did Sinfonia Concertante by Mozart for
Oh, yeah, I
violin
love that.
and viola,
Yeah.
great piece.
Yeah.
And then I did Mozart's Second Horn Concerto, and then my
Another
super
great
senior-
piece.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then my super senior year, Nick allowed me to actually conduct a piece with the as part of the concerto contest concert. So I did Strauss 1 with another horn player, which was really fun.
I love that piece too.
Fun to be able to work with him.
Yeah.
And then I actually, nerd, did a conducting recital for myself. So I did Egmont Overture and the Haydn 104. And I don't think I did a concerto on that.
So,
Anyway,
okay,
I
hold
put
on.
together an orchestra
Okay.
of friends, and we
Okay.
did like 3-4 rehearsals and did a show.
Okay, so that your recital actually had a real orchestra in it. It wasn't like a
Yeah.
pianist or something like that.
No. I recruited a chamber orchestra.
Oh, great.
It's
Cool.
the pizza and beer orchestra. Although I didn't give them pizza or beer, but it's the I think I was old enough for beer at that point, but it's I just had friends who were willing to do me a favor and help me out, and
That's initially
seems
how the Octava Chamber Orchestra started. The original version of it was actually our conductor Johann was doing his master's at the UW, and he had me help him put together a summer chamber group.
Mm-hmm.
Same type of thing. Though it wasn't technically a recital, but it was still, he wanted something going so he could have a conducting gig.
This tendency has kind of followed me, because when I was in grad school, I wanted to do more. I was like, wait, I don't have to do a recital for my master's? That's stupid. So I started an orchestra and did like 3 concerts a year for the 2 years I was there.
Hopefully they gave you high marks for that.
Yeah, somewhat. And then when I came back to Seattle, I started the Sound Ensemble.
You founded that.
Along with Jameson Bratcher. He and we actually knew each other from growing up. We had known each other since 5th grade when we started in band together. And went our separate ways and stuff. And we're just kind of meeting up and shooting the breeze about the music industry and some of the things that we observed in the area that we didn't love necessarily about the industry, and thought, well, maybe we could actually do something. We could maybe start an ensemble to help address these issues. And
Could you be more specific?
So we wanted to run a flexible professional ensemble that would honor the training and experience of the musicians.
Okay.
Because of the nature of an orchestra, it can't be democratic.
Okay.
But a lot of professional musicians get a little bit burned out and frustrated, and just don't feel like they're exercising their artistic capability. Like, we all go to music school and train for this, and then only the music directors and artistic directors actually get to do any real planning of what gets played and things like that.
Okay.
And so we in the Sound Ensemble, one of the things that we really focus on is making sure that the musicians have a voice in what is being programmed. So I'm actually working on programming next season, and I'm going through a list of works that my players said, hey, I'd really love to do this. And those will be like my starting point.
Because I thought the Sound Ensemble's main mission was premiering new music.
No, it's really not. It's amplifying underrepresented voices. Um, and so that is one way that takes form is amplifying the voices of our performers
Okay.
through our programming choices. And then it's also to be performing works by underrepresented composers. So
Oh,
women,
okay.
people of color, LGBTQ community, all of that.
Okay.
And it's not all that, but we make sure that there is a pretty equal representation. A lot of our concerts just kind of end up being uh, mostly, if not all, women or people of color. Um, we do a fair amount of premiering stuff. We do commission works, and we
Okay.
do premiere works that haven't been premiered yet that were already written.
Okay.
Uh, so I've actually done not just with the Sound Ensemble, but I counted it up recently because I was working on job applications and realized I've done I think 15 world premieres in the last 10 years
Good.
basically.
So
Uh,
what is this a wind ensemble or what's the composition of it?
it varies. So part of what we do is we try and explore what um, how to be a relevant and engaging ensemble for
Okay.
a 21st century audience.
Okay.
Um, and so some of it is we try and break down the expectations of, we intentionally dress a little more casually. We really try to make sure that the audience has a chance to talk with the players and engage with us,
Okay.
to really build relationship rather than being like, oh, we're in our tuxedos, we're on stage, you're down there,
Okay.
just breaking down that wall. Um,
Okay. Now to tell you,
so
I mean, to be perfectly honest, it doesn't sound that much different than what most community orchestras do these days.
there are some similar ideas
Okay.
that go on. We take it a little further
Okay.
than a lot of community orchestras do.
Okay.
Um, Part of the reason we do new music is just because there are 40 orchestras in town and there's no need for another orchestra. Um,
True. There's a
so
lot going on in Seattle
yeah,
musically. Yeah.
so the ensemble is sometimes we've had as small as trios performing on
Okay.
we'll change the ensemble up from piece to piece.
Okay.
It's not always the same, but our kind of middle of the road is basically a one on part chamber orchestra. So we have 5 string players, 2 violin, viola, cello,
Oh,
bass, flute, oboe, clarinet, bassoon, horn, trumpet, trombone, or tuba. Um, and then we often have a piano and 1 percussionist.
okay. Now there's a slight agenda to this question.
Yeah,
Is that has Mark Hillard Wilson called you yet?
yeah, he emailed me recently.
Okay, so you've talked to him about that piece he wants to premiere?
The piano concerto or the
No,
guitar
it was a
concerto.
guitar concerto.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because he asked me because he wanted to do it with Octava this summer, but I told him we're already full. So I
Mm-hmm.
said we could probably do it next summer. But then I realized that the composer is Ukrainian.
Mm-hmm.
So then I said, oh, so you probably want to do it now, you know,
Right.
in light of world events and stuff. So that's why I told him to call you. So I don't know how do you guys plan your whole season? Like, is it all planned out now or?
Not yet because I'm running behind.
Oh, so
uh,
so now is a good time for him to
Unfortunately, the
talk to you?
instrumentation doesn't work for us
Oh, it doesn't?
as it stands, as it's composed right now.
Because I looked at it, it looked like it just a small chamber orchestra.
It is, but if you scan through it, there's some divises in the string parts, and there's also more than one clarinet part in one spot. I also do everything in my power to avoid ever using timpani because they're a pain to uh, get and move. And
Where
so
do
I
you
just
guys perform?
uh, in the past, for a number of years, for the first 5 years, we were at the Chapel Performance Space
Okay.
in
Mm-hmm.
uh, wherever that is, Wallingford.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but recently we moved into Trinity Church Seattle in Ballard, which is where we rehearse. Um, it's right on 65th and 23rd, I think.
65th and what?
23rd.
In Ballard. Okay, wait a
Yeah.
minute.
It's not a typical venue. But one of our members is a congregant there.
Okay.
And previously they were Green Lake Presbyterian, and so we rehearsed in Green Lake Pres, and just kind of did a sort of a St. Martin in the Fields type approach to
Yeah.
things. And so that has bloomed into this partnership, and we went with them when they went into the nicer space in Ballard. So
Okay. So
yeah,
that just kind of shot that idea down, or are you guys still talking about doing it?
I sent him an email today when I started looking at it, and I just said, hey, timpani is problematic for us, but looking at the part, like, I think it could be done by bass drum if he really wants a drum. It's also doubling wind or string parts, so it's not really a critical part. And I asked
The
if he,
timpani is doubling the string parts? What?
yeah, like the timpani is like in the other parts. It wouldn't change the harmony or anything to cut the timpani out, or and
Well, I mean, the only piece I know that has a melodic timpani part is like Beethoven Violin Concerto,
well, it's
besides
not
modern stuff.
melodic, so to speak, but like the rhythm that is present in the part is present in
Okay.
other parts, and the pitches that are present in the part
Okay.
are in other parts as well. I mean, it's just kind of, it's a very classical, early, I'd say more like early romantic
Hmm.
timpani part.
Yeah. I
And then
didn't look it over that right. I just skimmed it
yeah,
really fast.
the divises make it a little bit problematic, because as it is, it's a little bit.
Well, I'm going to dig a little deeper into that. So, I mean, like, so things like that. Have you guys ever augmented your strings for a particular concert?
No, I would be more than happy to if somebody else was paying for it.
Mm.
So we a few years ago, this is a part of our original goal that we haven't achieved yet, which is to pay a competitive and regionally appropriate wage, which most paid orchestras uh, aren't able to do because of things. But
Mm.
um, one thing that really inspired me was a colleague where people were talking about, how much they were making per service, and a colleague mentioned that they were making $100 a service in the '80s, and they're still making $100 a service.
Yeah, I've heard that one. I mean,
Uh,
that's a common joke around for freelance musicians.
yeah,
I've got
well,
a good one. So 30 years ago, I started doing a gig down in Burien for a Catholic church in Burien, where we would come down and play their 8 a.m. mass once a month. Actually, it was twice a month back then, and they would pay us. It was a trio, so they would pay us each $50, and we'd come and play trio con brio.
mm-hmm.
Now, 30 years later, about 5 years ago, they decided to give us a raise. So now we each get $60. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Well, I mean,
But then they're always like, "But don't you love to play?" You know.
yeah, I do.
But I
Don't you
also
love
love
your
to
job
eat and
too?
pay my rent.
Yeah. Well, so it's I say this fully acknowledging that we're only able to pay a fraction of what we want to be able to pay. We're
Right.
still under
It's something.
the kind of the going rate for professional groups.
So you're a
Because,
semi-pro group then. I mean,
yeah,
that's what you call yourselves. Yeah.
yeah, we pay people per service at this point. It's not what we uh, want per service. It's on
Okay.
the low end of what professional groups are paying, but our goal would be to continue to grow that and make it into something that is really kind of acknowledging the amount of preparation and time necessary to do a really professional job on gigs,
Yeah. So that's the thing.
and honor that financially.
So you pay for rehearsals too, then, right?
Oh yeah.
So then you got the thing. Well, we can only afford 2 rehearsals or something like that.
So we do 3 rehearsals in a show.
Okay.
It's usually very intense because the music is very hard.
Right.
Oftentimes. So next week we actually have our Songwriter Showcase, and this is a much less musically intense program. We do 3 concerts a year. The first 2 are kind of your art music type stuff, with my concern of like, I want to bring new music that is really palatable and interesting to a modern audience, not just burp fart music. I'm happy to do some burp fart music along the way.
What music? Burp fart?
Burp fart music. It's just the stuff that's, it's all tongue rams and harmonics and advanced techniques.
Bunch of special effects, basically.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. And you get a lot of it in academia where it's just like, look at what I can do. Right. And it's like, well, congratulations, but where's the music? Yeah. Is this an academic exercise, or are you actually trying to evoke something here?
Right.
And so I try to make sure that I'm programming stuff that I really believe in emotionally, musically. But
you just stepped into a hot subject goes on between different camps of composers.
Oh, I'm well aware.
I'm in your camp, of course. I'm totally for.
Oh, I know. I've looked at your music
that has harmony and melodies and people can relate to.
So here's the thing, though. For my purposes as the leader of an organization that's trying to remain financially solvent, and also just what I really believe in as a musician, I want more approachable music. Now, most of the stuff that I've heard that like you've composed is on more like the film music, very traditional, very melodic. I actually like
romantic type of stuff.
Yeah,
mostly.
Which is great. Yeah. I actually like the weird stuff a little bit because I've just been doing it so much, and I see a lot of value in it. But I acknowledge that the highly academic, really experimental, out there stuff has a place. It's largely in academia where you don't have to worry about financial solvency or selling tickets.
You got a captive audience.
But the reason that that's actually still important, that I'm not just bashing that. The reason that's important is that we need to push the art form forward.
Okay.
But we have to walk this tightrope of like what is, we need to push the art form forward, but we also need to, function as ensembles and sell tickets. And be able to raise money. And so finding that balance is different for every ensemble, different for every musician.
Right. I mean, one approach is to say, okay, we'll do one modern piece that can be super avant-garde or whatever, and then, but also we'll play some Beethoven and then some Brahms in the same concert.
Which is not how, the Sound Ensemble is, doing Second Vienna School is really old for us. We've done L'Histoire de Soldat by Stravinsky, but most of what we do.
He's Vienna School? I never thought of
him. No, he's not Second Vienna School. He's actually after the Second Vienna School.
Yeah.
So, and by Second Vienna School, for those who may not know, we're talking Schoenberg, Webern, and Berg.
Those guys.
Yeah. So we've done Verklärte Nacht.
Which is very early Schoenberg, which is why it's so early, accessible, because it still has a tonal element to it.
It does. And part of the reason we did it was one of our players really wanted to do the sextet version without a conductor. And I was like, awesome. So they put it together. They did a great job. We've done Hinde mit Kammermusik, number 1, great piece. But so that's really old music that we very rarely actually do. Almost everything we do is within the last 30 years. And so our third concert of the year for the Sound Ensemble is cross-genre collaboration. So it's a Songwriter Showcase. So we're working with 3 different songwriters, Brittany Allison, Tyler Edwards, and Ryan Phillips. Okay. And we
are they all local?
They're kind of regional.
Okay.
Brittany Allison is local. Tyler has been local, but is moving to Nashville, and Ryan is in Portland. But we have arrangers that take their music and write it for the Sound Ensemble as the band, basically. And it's a really fun show. We've done it once before, and it's just a lot of fun to combine our audiences and just kind of do the acknowledgement of like, yeah, we play great music. You guys play great music. It's all great music. Or, and we make sure that we work with people that we think are making great music.
Okay, so this is kind of Seattle Rock Orchestra type of deal then. This
A little
particular
bit,
concert.
yeah.
Okay.
It's a slightly more grassroots type
Okay.
approach to that. So
Interesting. Wow. Okay.
yeah, it's a really fun group. I come away feeling incredibly inspired and honored to work with the people that I do.
Right.
Every single concert, I am pulling my hair out and exhausted, burned out.
What hair?
Yeah, well, as a figure of speech, pulling my beard out. How about that?
Okay.
And,
Tugging at my eyebrows.
Yeah, right. There's plenty to pluck there.
Actually, I don't have. I'm the one that doesn't have the eyebrows.
But it's always just this incredibly exhausting process.
Okay.
But I hit rehearsals and I'm just inspired and in awe that these people are so committed to doing this.
That's great.
Make such great music with us.
So you said 3 concerts a year. So it sounds like it's just you have a lot of time in between, and then it's just slam bang, really intense.
Yeah. So we do a fall concert, a spring or a winter concert, and a spring concert. So we have typically one late September, early October, one in February, and then one in May.
Yeah, I mean, since it's a paid gig, it shouldn't be that hard to get a timpani. Like you could probably get Ian to do it for timpani.
Well, I've got the players. It's the instruments that are a nuisance.
Well, Ian owns a couple of sets of timpani, and some of them are really good.
I know, but I also prioritize going back to my people.
Yeah, okay.
That are consistently there.
So you typically don't hire ringers.
I mean, I have a first call list. Basically, we don't pay enough for people to be super consistent necessarily. People take other gigs and they're not gonna save the week for us necessarily. I hire
Well, it depends. I mean,
so I hire per concert. Each concert I hire people, but I have a list of people that I consistently go to. Sarah Bassingthwaite is always my flute player, and Kate McKenzie is always my bassoonist. Storm Benjamin covers percussion. Jamison's on low brass. So I've got consistent people in different sections that are like our people. Right. And then if people are busy, then I, find others
and stuff. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a wonderful group. It's been going for 7 years. And it's gone from $1,000 for the entire year with a couple of house concerts our first year, and to we're at about a $15,000 budget annually at this point.
Okay, let me do some math here. So how many people are in the group?
15 or 16.
Okay, so let's see here. So they're getting like somewhere around $30 a service?
It's $50 a service.
50, okay.
Yeah.
That's halfway decent. I mean, I do a lot of gigs. I mean, of course, well, here's a perfect example. Like I'm a freelance musician and I'll do gigs. If somebody calls me up and asks me to do a gig for $50 a service, I'll probably do it if the music looks interesting.
It's the very beginning of being able to acknowledge that we pay per service, not an honorarium.
Yeah.
And I freely acknowledge where it is, but we also create an atmosphere that people really love and are really challenged by the music and enjoy it. And so, there's this kind of 3-legged stool that we talk about of like really exciting music, great people, and good pay.
Yeah.
That you need to have 2 of those
before
people will take a gig.
Yeah.
And so because we're a new music ensemble and have been trying to work on building our budget, which we've been very fortunate about and managed to grow, we've focused on the cultivating a really neat community within the ensemble, as well as making it really exciting musically.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
we can get great players who are interested in love performing with us.
Yeah. Well, again, I was saying, like, I'm a freelancer and I'll do paid gigs, but I also do unpaid gigs. Like, I mean, the 3 orchestras I play in, I'm not getting paid for.
Yeah.
So I'm doing it for the love of it. So it's always, I mean, I don't think any musician plays music just to make money. I mean, there's a lot of easier ways to make a lot more money than being a musician.
There are many. Most ways to make money are easier.
Yeah. In fact, I mean, the kind of musicians that we hang out with tend to have day jobs, but they're also super good players.
Yeah.
People have learned how to do that, at least in this area of the country. It's possible to do both.
Yeah.
So, yeah, wow. Okay, so I've learned a little bit more about Sound Ensemble. That's real interesting.
It's a really fun group. I love working with it, and it's been a huge learning curve in terms of the administrative side and the musical side.
Yeah. I assume the name is kind of a pun because there's Puget Sound.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a, I don't know if it really read. It's Puget Sound, and sound as in like oral sound, and sound as in sound investment sound.
Oh, wow, it's a 3-way.
Yeah.
That's good.
That
I didn't catch
was
that.
what we were thinking when we came up with it.
That's good.
It is what it is.
That's cool. Wow. Okay. So we have this other group called the Seattle Festival Orchestra.
Yeah.
Which you've been conducting for now, how long? It's been 5 years?
Joined them in 2018.
Okay, so that means it's been 4
I
years.
had one full season and then like a 3/4 of a season before COVID hit.
Okay.
So it feels a lot longer than it's actually been in terms of concerts.
Okay. All right, and we play symphonic orchestra stuff, but really it's more like a chamber orchestra based on the size of the strings.
Yeah, it's about a 45-person ensemble.
Yeah.
Because of the size of the strings, we have to kind of watch what we perform a little bit.
Right. Of course, we're doing Sibelius' First Symphony.
Sometimes I just go with.
You can't help yourself.
Yeah. Well, and part of the thing is when you're programming for a community orchestra,
right,
you need to find something that is playable by the ensemble, that they're going to sound good playing. But you also have to find stuff that is exciting and interesting for them that they want to play. And sometimes those two don't align very well. And so you have to kind of walk, again, tightrope walking. You just got to find the balance. And part of what I run into is like some of my most faithful and consistent members are a tuba player and the low brass section, which
meaning trombones.
The trombones and tuba. As the conductor of a community orchestra, my job is to cultivate that community and lift it up. Now, if I was like hiring people and doing a professional type stuff, I'd be like, well, I just don't need low brass. And now we can do earlier music. Our string section is all of a sudden the right size and ta-da, perfect. But that's not what this is about. It's about great music, but it's about community as well. And that's at the core of what's going on. And so when you're trying to involve a full low brass section with a tuba and 3 trombones, all of a sudden doing stuff that works for chamber orchestra and the size of string section we have is not an option because those parts don't exist.
Well, you could do Mendelssohn's Midsummer Night's Dream.
Does that call for?
Yeah, there's tuba.
Oh, nice.
And I think there is trombone in it. Maybe 1 trombone.
Sure.
Yeah.
I should look at that one. We're doing Mendelssohn Scottish in the fall.
Oh, cool. That's a great one.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. So how about this? So now, how did you learn all this stuff? Just by trial and error, or did they actually teach you any of this in college? How to build communities, how to build orchestras, and all that kind of stuff.
kind of picked it up along the way. I didn't have any classes about this.
Right, 'cause
The
surprisingly, because I mean, a music director, this is a large part of what a successful music director has to do, right? Even in a
Yeah,
professional orchestra.
we we talked about programming some in the seminar class with Nick at Central. Um, we did talk about programming in my graduate studies somewhat, but not a ton. Um, it's stuff you kind of pick up along the way. On the community side of it, that's mostly me. Um, I mean, there's the underlying uh, knowledge of like for all conductors that you get into where you understand like, oh, I have to program for the forces I have.
Okay. Before I forget, I want to ask you about your mom. Does she still conduct choirs now?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'd say in the next 5 years she might be backing off a little bit, but she's the Bethany Community Church where I grew up and actually where I go still. She's the choir director there, so she has two adult choirs and a children's choir. Um,
Okay. Did she teach you any of this stuff?
yes and no. The value of community and the importance of um, honoring people's time uh, and commitment to the community, sure, as just kind of my part of my upbringing and all of that. Um, I I've played in community orchestras a lot, uh, and I grew up in this area. When I came back here after undergrad, I played in Talia Symphony and gigged around. I've subbed with Luco, subbed with Octava, um, and so, and I believe in these community orchestras as much as it makes it a difficult thing for we who are trying to make a living at this, because there's a culture of not paying musicians in
Mm,
Seattle.
right.
I think this is a fantastic thing that so many people have an opportunity to just make music for the love of it. Um,
And high quality music
yeah, there's some
too.
great orchestras
Yeah,
around here.
the
You
level
know,
of playing is really high.
right?
No.
And what's difficult is that most of these orchestras would be paid around in the rest of the country. Like the approach to orchestra and the culture around it is very different. Um, and they wouldn't be paid a lot, but they'd be, it'd be a little something.
Mm,
Um, and so I really believe in that. And I guess my valuing of community and culture and all of that does come from my faith upbringing, my parents valuing community, and just I believe in music. I believe in what we do because of people and how it relates to people.
hmm
It's not separate from that.
hmm
Um, we cannot make great music if we don't like each other, or at least
Okay.
don't respect each other. You know,
Okay.
like of course there's areas where but like the best music is made when we're honoring each other, respecting each other, and supporting each other.
Yeah.
Um, and so we have to, honor that. And I don't know. You look at organizations and at the core of it, it's people.
Yeah.
I wave a stick around. It's kind of every boy's dream to get paid to wave a stick around, right? Um, but like,
Okay. Start throwing the dollar bills
yeah, right.
right there.
But
Woo, come
like,
on now.
but I don't actually make any sound typically. At least I'm not supposed to. Um, and so I have to be a leader and inspire and put the needs of the organization first, so that the organization will be healthy.
Yeah.
Um,
So I imagine, actually, now that I think about it, On the educational side of the house, you said you do you doing music ed at Central too?
Yeah, I did. I studied music ed at Central.
So over there, I mean, they must be giving you classes on how to inspire kids, how to deal with discipline problems, and all that stuff when you're dealing with kids, right?
Yeah, I mean, not specifically, but yeah, like that gets worked into the education
Sort of
courses.
general education stuff, right?
Yeah.
Or do they throw you to the wolves for that and they're like, just go figure it out? Or ask the other
No,
teachers.
no, there is some discussion of it and mentorship around that. That's part of student teaching. Having grown up around two parents who really loved kids and worked with kids a lot, I
Okay.
that had become part of my psyche and just how you work with kids.
Okay.
Uh, and I also had worked with youth symphony, and so it came fairly naturally to understand what kids are and were.
Okay.
And of course, I'm continuing to grow. And now, as a father, I'm continuing to grow even more. But
Yeah.
I, um, they do teach you some of this, but there are a
Okay.
remarkable number of teachers who come out and are really shocked by what it takes to uh,
Run a classroom.
wrangle kids.
Yeah.
And that was not an issue for me.
Okay. So
Uh,
the reason why I asked that, I was thinking, well, okay, so if you got that, then it wouldn't be that much of a stretch to apply all that to adults and to community orchestras and all that kind of stuff you have to deal with your community orchestra.
yeah, I think some of it also came from growing up in strong music programs.
Hmm.
Growing up with Cascade Youth Symphony, uh, I have a lot of respect for Gary Marsh. There are ways, and he has weaknesses like everybody, but like he was very intentional about uh, collaborating with Tam Osborne to let Tam use his strengths to balance out Gary's weaknesses and vice versa.
Hmm.
Um, and I learned a lot musically from them, and they were very intentional about creating community and culture in Cascade Youth Symphony. Uh,
Right.
Going through Inglemoor High School and Kenmore Junior High with Debbie Montag and Ted Christensen and Judy Philibek and Jim Rice, it's like if you're,
Oh, you know Jim.
oh yeah, I know Jim quite well. I'm friends with his daughters, and
Cause you
um,
oh, cause you know, I mean, you know, like he's like one of the elders at Maple Park Church.
oh, is he?
Yeah,
I've seen
where
him at one of
Octava
the concerts.
plays.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
no, I've known Jim for a long time.
Okay.
I met him in high school. Actually, he was he became my teacher in high school. He was my adjudicator when I played the first movement of Mozart's Third Horn Concerto for solo ensemble in eighth grade, I think it was. Yeah. And he was very impressed that I did lip trills and
Ooh,
read
lip
it in E
trills.
flat.
I'm trying to remember how how opening melody goes for that one.
I don't know either, to be honest. Nobody plays it.
Oh,
It's
okay.
all
Okay. Not
the
the super famous
second and
one.
fourth are the most popular. Anyway, uh, so yeah, I mean, for people in the music world, love them or hate them, that's kind of like a list of the who's for the Seattle area in music ed uh,
Hmm.
to a certain extent.
Hmm.
And I had all of them as my teachers. And so, like,
What
getting all,
about Dan Wing? Did you ever work with him?
no, he was always in Shoreline.
Okay.
So I was aware of him, but I just never worked with him.
Okay.
Uh, and so, yeah, I learned a lot of these things about community and all of that from being in ensembles and observing and all of that. Anyway,
That's neat.
yeah.
Wow. So you got all that happening, and then, but you also have your sights on like uh, conducting professional orchestras or becoming
Mhm.
guest conductor in groups and stuff, and
Yeah.
doing. I know that you're right now. You've applied to several competitions and have been accepted.
Yeah, I'm doing two competitions in the next couple of months. So I'm uh, in 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I'm going to
Yeah.
Italy for a week and a half for a competition for the Nino Rota International Conducting Competition. And then I'm going to Vienna in July for the Wiener Schule masterclass and competition.
Nice. So how does that work? I mean, I've never actually witnessed a conducting competition, but
they're a lot of fun because I'm a nerd and like these things. They're also really intense, but
so some people into video games, you're into conducting
yeah.
competitions.
So the competitions, you get a certain amount of time to do, usually shockingly short. In the first, so well, I'll run you down for the Nino Rota in Italy. There's 61 of us going for the first round.
Holy crap! I thought there'd be like 10 at the most.
61 for the first round, and we have
How in the
15
world?
minutes over 3 days to work with the orchestra. So I'm in the session that's like after lunch on the second day for my first round. And I get to, for this one, I get to pick between two pieces. This one is a piece by Nino Rota, that's a nonetto, or Stravinsky Ragtime. So I'm going to do the Nino Rota piece.
Stravinsky Ragtime, I don't even know what that is.
It's a cute little ragtime that he wrote, and it sounds like Stravinsky. It's a nice little piece, actually. So for 11 instruments. We have 15 minutes to rehearse and then perform in full the piece. So,
yeah, okay, question. So every single of these 60 conductors is going to pick one of those two pieces?
Yep. It's going to be real boring for the orchestra.
Well, I mean, I can already see how it's, if you're the first one, the orchestra is going to sound way better than if you're like the 20th person and that they've already had 20 rehearsals.
Yes and no. So what they're looking for is, are you technically proficient? Do you engage with the orchestra? And are you saying something interesting musically? Which is a bit of a challenge with standard repertoire sometimes. Anyway, so after the first round, there will be 12 people for the second round.
Okay.
So most people will go out the first round.
Okay.
The second round is, I believe,
1 in 5 survives.
Yeah. I believe it's 30 minutes for the second round that you have. And they choose between the third movement of the Holberg Suite or the a piece by Janacek, one of the movements of the string suite by Janacek.
Third movement of the is that the slow movement?
Yeah, it's the
elegy.
No, it's the gavotte.
Da dun da dun da dun dun da dun 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 da dun dun.
So that's the third round.
Okay.
After that, there will be 6 for the final. Is that right? Or no, the second round. The third round is 6 people, and they will assign you 1 Mozart aria of the 3 that they've given, and 1 symphonic piece of the 3 they've given. And you have 30 minutes to rehearse and perform in full these pieces.
Okay, back to the previous round. So how come the previous round is only strings?
For the sake of budget.
Okay.
So they don't have to pay the full orchestra. For like the first round, it's 11 instruments for the ragtime and 9 for the other one.
Oh, so it starts small and gets bigger.
In this case, the other competition I've done, it was just full orchestra the whole time.
Okay.
So the third round you get those, and then the fourth round you get is the final, and there will be 3 finalists basically, and they will assign you a different aria and a different symphonic piece, and you get, I think it's 50 minutes to rehearse without the jury there, okay. And then you do a concert with the 3 finalists and the winner.
Now, is this like Hell's Kitchen where you got somebody like his name's Steve Ramsey?
Gordon Ramsay?
Gordon Ramsay. Where he comes and tells you how horrible you are and what a fool and an idiot you are and all this kind of stuff.
No, it's not nearly
and then,
that.
Get out of here.
I mean, if they're nice, they'll let you talk with the judges and find out why you're out.
Okay.
But no. It's all very civilized.
Do they put up numbers like 10, 9? like in the
No,
Olympics or
they don't
something?
give you scores. They just say these are the people moving on.
Sorry, kid.
Yeah,
Better luck next time.
yeah, basically. So,
So, okay, do you expect to find people that are about your age bracket, or
yeah, a lot of them are younger. I'm on the upper end uh, for conducting competitions. There are a
interesting?
number of some of the top really major competitions in the world. Once you're 35, you can't do them anymore.
That's age discrimination.
Uh, I think the point is that if you're 35, you're supposed to have established yourself by then,
Interesting.
and if you haven't, then tough. You're not going to succeed. I
Hmm.
disagree with that, but I'm also
I mean,
convinced
I
that,
consider you to be pretty young to be a conductor.
well, the irony is that people also like to tell, someone told Simon Rattle, they were like, look, your career's really going to take off when you turn 65 because people will start taking you seriously.
Yeah, you need a few gray
So,
hairs.
so that's my retirement plan. But no, but in the current scheme of things, I'm not actually that young.
Huh.
In terms of the excitement and glamour of marketing. But I also came to the competition thing late. Um, I didn't really start thinking about competitions until I went to Romania a couple of years ago, and on principle, I don't agree with competitions.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I mean, so big whoop, you win some competitions. Does that really land you a conducting gig somewhere?
So this is why. One, yes, because it proves that other people think you're a good conductor. But this
Okay.
is why I'm okay with competitions and uh, feel like they're important. It's an opportunity to guest conduct.
Okay.
So the prize is usually guest conducting engagements, and it
So
is
you can say, I can guest conduct at the Vienna Philharmonic or something like that.
right, exactly.
Now that looks good on a resume.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's
Okay.
very hard to get guest conducting engagements unless
Okay.
you have management. And it's very hard to get management unless you have guest conducting engagements and or have won competitions. Uh, yeah,
Sketch
it's
22.
it's typical. It's not, just conductors, it's all of artists and, but
Yeah.
uh, in order for my applications to be taken more seriously, um, because I don't have the pedigree, um,
You don't have a pedigree?
on my resume and stuff of like Peabody and New England Conservatory and stuff. I went to Central Washington University and Bowling Green State University. Um,
The
but
Central has some pull,
uh,
At least, maybe
not
that's under the
Central has pull
educators.
in terms of education,
Okay.
but not like that. Because I haven't gone to these, name recognition great schools.
Conservatoire de Paris.
Yeah, it's not. Uh, Things aren't necessarily taken seriously. I also don't have a doctorate, which may or may not be a benefit. Depends on who you ask. And so basically, in order to be taken more seriously, getting experience as a guest conductor is one of the best ways to do that.
Okay. New question.
Yeah.
At what point are you going to, in order to be taken seriously, are you going to change your name from Bobby to Roberto?
Never. I actually very intentionally made the decision. I was initially doing the Robert thing for my marketing stuff, but I spent so much time telling people to just call me Bobby because it felt too pretentious to go by Robert all the time. That I just went, this is stupid. I'm Bobby, and accepting that my. It's not like I think about this a lot, but my brand is. Being approachable and very enjoyable to work with while also being a really good musician. I am not the maestro. I will never be the maestro.
Maestro Bobby.
I did try to make my Instagram handle Maestro Bob when I first started Instagram, but they wouldn't let me. Somebody already had it. But
You could be Bob the Maestro guy.
That's right. That is, it's who I am. very naturally. This isn't something that I've cultivated. It's who I am. It's what I believe about music. It's how I approach music. And so embracing that as how I present myself made the most sense to me. So my website is bobbycollins.org because WordPress gave me .org for some reason.
That's right. Well, I'll have to admit, I mean, when you say Bobby Collins, it's just sort of happy. I mean, it makes you feel good when you say Bobby.
Ironically, I've also had people be basically offended that I went by Bobby and try and call me Rob or Bob or Robert.
Offended?
They were like, it wasn't offended, but they were just like, you need to be respected more than that. That's just too chat. I'm like, look, it's my name. Call me. Like, I don't care. Bobby McFerrin seems pretty successful. Bobby Kennedy was pretty successful. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
I know it's not usual. My brother is 37 and he goes by Johnny still.
Well, then we got our guy Johnny Depp is in everybody's mind right now.
Right?
Johnny Carson. What other Johnnies do we know? Yeah, so it's okay.
Anyway,
Kenny G.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
And it's just who I am. And so I accept that.
Yeah. Okay. I'll buy that. That's great then. So you already are who you want to be.
Well, certainly there's always room for growth. There are aspects of
your bobbiness.
There are aspects of who I am that I recognize as kind of core parts of my identity and how I approach music, and I can accept that that's what it is, and continue to work on other things. But I do know why I do music, and what my desire is in doing music, and that's to point people toward beauty. Our world's chock full of beauty and goodness, and music shows us that. And when all we can see is the ugliness, which is pretty easy right now, music helps us to pull back the curtain and look at what things should be and what things can be,
Right.
and what good there is. That's still, for as hokey as it is, the Samwise Gamgee quote from Lord of the Rings, it's like there's still some good in this world and it's worth fighting for. It's like that articulates pretty closely what I believe about music and why I do it. And I have no interest in being authoritarian or unpleasant to work with in order to feed my ego. And so I know that's not going to change dramatically over the years.
Oh, that's inspiring. Wow.
Cool. I'm just going to inspire a few more boards of directors so they'll hire me.
Yep. Yeah. Okay.
I will say, I am thankful for what I have. Of course, I'm striving for more. I was talking with Jeff Snedeker recently, my horn teacher from undergrad, who's a friend now, and he was like, he made the point. It was like, look, you're doing it. You're making a living as a musician. You're performing and you're teaching music, and you aren't doing anything outside of music to make money. And that's kind of living the dream. You're like, that's it. Of course you want to strive for more, but like, it was a good reminder to step back and be grateful for what I have. And I love working with SFO, and I love working with the Sound Ensemble. And I'm really thankful that I can make a pretty good wage teaching something that I really care about.
Yeah. And then we didn't even talk about, you're also doing some composing these days too. I guess we touched on it a tad, but we never got into it too much.
I'm hoping to delve into it a little bit more as a way to, on the artistic side, I feel like I finally maybe have something to say and add to the conversation with composition. I think I maybe have enough of a grasp on the tools and enough of a vision for what I want to be communicated.
Mm-hmm.
On the functional side of it, I got really excited about the whole sync licensing thing. Basically, effectively writing jingles, commercial jingles, or music that can be used in film or TV or commercials or anything like that. And there are these databases that will basically sell that. And so thinking along the lines of more of a Haydn-esque composer writing good music, that is my voice, that fits what people need.
Right.
And that's kind of the dream. I still have a long way to actually, and I have to figure out, when I'm going to do this.
Yeah, because it takes a lot. Another thing, though, I mean, another attitude to have.
Mahlerian approach.
Oh, it's the Mahlerian one.
Work as a conductor during the year and then spend my summer composing.
Strauss.
It's the dream. It's the dream of being creating some level of passive income or semi-passive income to help bolster things. Because we live in a wonderful place that's really expensive to live in. So.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, another possibility with composing, another attitude is just kind of looking at it like a sandbox where like you develop a certain proficiency, which you already have because you're a musician and a conductor, right? You already have a lot of stuff built in. And then when you get an idea, just kind of follow it and see what happens.
Yeah.
Like there's a famous quote by Mozart where he says, well, I like to just start an idea or a melody and just take it for a walk.
Yeah. Well, and it's fun. As soon as I started trying to compose, I started feeling like I was approaching scores a little bit differently and able to kind of hold things in my mind a little bit better in terms of a score and understanding the architecture of it and how it all fit together and how it needed to relate. And not to say that I couldn't do that before, but there was a little more clarity in it. Mm-hmm.
Gives you a different perspective on it.
It was just another lens that I think will help me be a better conductor.
Right, and that's kind of like a major reason why I'm taking conducting lessons from you is to help me become a better composer.
Right.
It works both ways.
Yeah, everything scratches it. Being a singer made me a better horn player. Being a horn player made me a better singer. This is part of where I started delving into composing was the existential crisis of being a conductor in the middle of a pandemic when I can't conduct anything. I'm talking with a friend, Jameson, who I started the Sound Ensemble with, and he had the wisdom from a teacher of his that was like, look, you're a musician. You happen to be studying for him tuba at the time, but you're not a tuba player. You're a musician. And that has so many interpretations and areas where that can be. If you spend your time getting caught up in this one area, you're almost certainly going to fail and be unhappy. But if you're willing to expand that and just allow that artistry to flow into different parts of your life and different areas of music, then all of my training as a horn player goes into my conducting. All of it, my training goes into composing, and it all works together.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fun.
So, yeah, it is a lot of fun.
Yeah. That's cool. All right. Well, that's a pretty good note to wrap everything up on.
Well, thanks so much.
So I'm going to put a bunch of links in the description. So we're going to put your website, which is it bobbycollins.com?
Yeah, or .org. bobbycollins.org.
bobbycollins.org. Then the Sound Ensemble
is thesoundensemble.com.
Okay. And then Seattle Festival Orchestra.
.org, I believe.
Org. Okay, we'll put that down there. Is there anything else we should put in there?
I think that's it.
Okay. Well, if we think of something, we'll add that too. Just go looking down there for things to click on. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. All right, Bobby. Well, it's been fun. All
Yeah.
right, and I guess we're gonna see each other. Tomorrow's our lesson, right?
Friday this week because I got a
Oh,
concert with my
Friday.
kids tomorrow. But
Okay.
yeah. See
Okay,
you
I'll
all
double
day.
check my calendar. Hopefully, I put it in there.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Take care. It's been great.
Pranakasha production. Fantastic creations emerging spontaneously from the space of life. For the benefit of all beings everywhere. We gotta change.